Welcome everyone to today's webinar on artificial intelligence and diplomacy, navigating the intersection of technology and international relations. My name is Patricia Martínez Briones, and I'm a program officer at UNITAR's Division for Multilateral Diplomacy. On behalf of UNITAR, we would like to extend a warm welcome to all of you and thank you for joining us for today's activity. During today's webinar, we'll discuss about some of the most pressing issues related to artificial intelligence and international relations. But before that, I wanted to briefly go through the webinar's agenda. First, our moderator, Dr. Lluc López Vidal, who is the director of UOC UNITAR Master International Affairs and Diplomacy and Related Qualifications, will say a few introductory remarks about the topic, as well as the joint master's program between UOC and UNITAR. Then he will kindly introduce our dear panelists who have joined today's webinar, so they can present their ideas on about this relevant topic. And at the end of the discussion, we will open the floor for questions that you may have, and then we'll close the webinar. The webinar will last 1 hour, and kindly note that the webinar will be recorded. If you want to ask any questions, you can use the Q&A functionality from Zoom. So you don't need to wait until the end of the webinar to pose your questions. You can do it whenever you want. As you're a very large group of participants, to streamline the communication, we're going to live streaming this webinar on UNITAR's YouTube account. So we'll put the link in a minute there in case you have any issues accessing the Zoom link. And then to avoid any background noises, if you can please mute your microphone and your video camera, that will be much appreciated. So without any further ado, I would like to give the floor to Dr. Lluc López Vidal. Lluc, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Patricia, and good afternoon, and thank you for joining us today for this seminar or webinar on artificial intelligence. My name is Lluc López Vidal, and I will be your moderator for today's discussion. We have a great panel of experts who will be sharing their insights and expertise on the topic. We are also excited to have you all here to participate in the final section discussion. Let me very briefly comment that this webinar is organized by UNITAR and UOC as a part of our Masters in Diplomacy and International Affairs. Just 2 sentences. It's a program we have designed to provide students with the tools and techniques for, let's say, effective diplomacy. Overall, the master is designed for those who want to advance their careers in the diplomatic spheres. And I think it provides a unique opportunity to obtain a recognized qualification that can improve their professional credentials and open up new opportunities for their career. In terms of contents, the master offers courses covering topics such as international law, conflict resolution, public diplomacy, and last but not least, artificial intelligence. The webinar is actually part of a series of webinars for our students who have the opportunity to discuss with leading experts and practitioners in the field and to learn from their own experiences. I saw some names of participants which are familiar to me. For those of you who do not know, we had the chance to meet in the field visit. Every year we organize in Geneva to visit different international organizations, the United Nations, WTO, etc. So I extend a warm welcome to them. Against this background, we have prepared today a webinar on the topic artificial intelligence and diplomacy. We are all here because we know AI is transforming the world we live in, from the way we study at the UOC, for instance, and communicate to the way we access and use information. Let's say we'll have the chance to, if I can use the word, revolutionize our field of expertise to increase efficiency in our daily tasks, or maybe solve complex challenges through artificial intelligence. And in that sense, diplomacy cannot be an exception. Through AI, we help analyze, or AI is helping analyze vast amounts of data in real time. We all know, I think, ChatGPT, that's a hot topic. Therefore, AI has the power to probably improve the decision-making processes and enhance our ability to address diplomacy. But at the same time, AI also presents a number of challenges or potential risks or maybe ethical concerns. So we need to be sure that it benefits all of us and not just a selected few. Today, there are at least 3 topics we should address at the end of the webinar. First, Professor Damian Toussaint will present the potential benefits and challenges of using AI in the field of diplomacy. It's essential that we explore its impact on international relations. Next, Professor Raquel Jorge will talk about the use of AI in diplomacy and how it can have practical applications in various areas, including humanitarian aid. And finally, Professor Shaun Riordan will talk about AI technology and how it can have some challenges for global governance, particularly in the areas of ethics. So our hope is that this conversation will help us better understand the potential of AI, and now we can, or let's say, and how we can use it to build a better future for all. Let's give now the floor to Mr. Damian Toussaint. Please, the floor is yours.
Yeah, well, thank you so much, Hugh, and thank you everyone for, it is a pleasure for me today to be here and sharing this webinar with you all. So I'm gonna try to give some of the most important things on artificial intelligence and international relations. I'm gonna share my screen with you. Okay, can you see my screen?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So first, when talking about artificial intelligence, I think it's important to talk about how it can impact the power dynamics and the balance of power, because as we continue to witness the advancements of artificial intelligence, it is important to recognize and it is important to know the significant impact that AI can have on power dynamics and the balance of power in society between individuals, organizations, and nations. Some of the some of the implications can be, first, in disruptive technology, AI has the ability to automate and augment many tasks, potentially rendering current jobs and industries which are obsolete, which has the potential to dramatically alter power dynamics, as those who control the AI will have a significant advantage in the job market and will be able to influence the distribution of wealth. Another way AI can affect power dynamics is through the data that it collects and analyzes. AI relies heavily on data, and companies and countries with access to large amounts of data will have a significant advantage in developing and deploying of AI technologies, which could lead to the concentration of power in a few companies and a few countries. With expansion of connected devices and the Internet of Things, vast amounts of data are being generated every day. Those who control the AI that analyzes the data will have significant power over those who do not. They will be able to use this information to influence decisions, shape opinions, and manipulate behavior. We have to talk about military applications too, because AI has the potential to revolutionize a military strategy and capabilities, potentially giving countries with advanced AI capabilities a significant military advantage. One of the most prominent military applications of AI is the development of autonomous weapon systems. The systems are designed to operate independently without human intervention and are capable of making decisions and taking actions on their own. So Some people argue that these systems could reduce the risks to human soldiers by performing dangerous missions, such as clearing mines or patrolling dangerous areas without exposing human personnel to harm. Another potential military application of AI is the area of artificial intelligence gathering and analysis, because AI systems can be used to process large amounts of data from multiple sources, allowing military analysts to identify patterns and make informed decisions more quickly. So these systems can also be used to identify potential threats and predict future conflicts, allowing military planners to take proactive measures to prevent or mitigate these threats. However, the use of AI in intelligence gathering and analysis also raises concerns about privacy and about civil liberties. AI systems are capable of processing vast amounts of personal data, raising questions about this protection of individual privacy and also about the potential for misuse of information. Additionally, AI has the potential to amplify existing power imbalances in society, because if the data used to train AI systems is biased, then the decisions that AI makes will be also biased. So this can perpetuate existing inequalities and further entrench power imbalances. So equipped with facial recognition algorithms will capture ever more defined cognitive understanding, not only of our biometrics features, but also about human emotions and behaviors. So this new form of intrusive computing in our personal lives has significant implications for self-determination and privacy, specifically when talking about children's privacy. Overall, the development of and deployment of AI will have far-reaching implications for power dynamics and balance of power. And it will also be important to carefully consider these implications and take steps to ensure that AI is developed and used in a responsible and equitable manner. Second big issue, big block is the impact of AI on international relations and global governance. The potential impact of AI in international relations and global governance could be significant. Some of the ways it could impact would be, first, obviously, in diplomacy. One of the most significant ways AI can impact in diplomacy is through the analysis of large volumes of data. With the increasing amount of data available, AI-powered tools can help diplomats to quickly process and analyze vast amounts of information from different resources. This can aid to identify trends, predicting future events, and developing more informed strategies in areas such as national security, trade policy, or global health. AI is also important and is impacting the way diplomats interact with each other. With the use of virtual assistants, diplomats can communicate with one another in real time and efficiently coordinate their efforts. This can help to reduce the time and resources required for diplomatic negotiations and improve the accuracy and effectiveness of communication between different countries and different organizations. AI can also help in the process of conflict resolution by analyzing data and predicting these potential outcomes of different scenarios. This can lead to a more effective negotiations and the avoidance of military conflicts. And AI can also help to automate routine tasks and such as scheduling meetings and allow diplomats to spend more time on high-level strategic planning. Talking about military applications, as we were talking previously, the truth is that the deployment of AI in military systems could lead to new types of conflict and increase the risk of accidental escalation. It could also challenge existing norms and laws, international law of armed conflict. Third, we should consider the global economic disparities, because AI has the potential to further widen the gap between developed and developing nations, as countries with advanced AI capabilities could gain a significant economic advantage over those without. For cybersecurity, the widespread deployment of AI systems increases the risk of cyber attacks and could lead to a new area of cyber conflict. AI can help definitely to detect and prevent malicious activity, and AI-driven systems can detect anomalies in data, traffic, and alert systems teams of potential threats. AI could also be used to identify and respond to potential threats from these cyber attacks and malicious actors. Okay, and here it's really interesting because some even talk about new forms of cyber colonization, which are increasingly likely as powerful states are able to harness AI and biotech to understand and potentially control other countries' populations and ecosystems. Finally, in this block of the impact of AI on international relations, again, we must talk about data sovereignty. As AI systems become increasingly dependent on data, countries may seek to protect their data resources and restrict access to others, which could lead to new tensions and trade disputes. It is clear the use of AI diplomacy also has the potential to increase the existing power imbalances, as we were saying, between countries, because countries with greater access to AI technologies and greater data resources may have a significant advantage in diplomatic negotiations, potentially limiting the ability of smaller or less technologically advanced countries to participate fully in the diplomatic process. So there are tons of ways to address the impact of AI in international relations. So, one way one strategy we could take would be international cooperation, because countries and international organizations can work together to establish common norms, standards, regulations for the development and deployment of AI. Second, it is really important to invest in AI education and research, just to know about it. So countries should invest in AI education and research to build their capabilities, ensure they have a seat in the table, right, in shaping the future of AI. Third, obviously, cybersecurity measures. Countries can work together to strengthen cybersecurity and ensure the security of AI system and data. Also, we could talk about transparency, accountability, addressing economic disparities, and finally, the ethical frameworks. And these are just some of the strategies, but there are more ways to address this impact. And this will be it. I know I talk a little more than I should.
Thank you, Damian. Let's now move on to the next panelist, and let's give the floor to Raquel.
Thank you. And well, first of all, thank you very much for the invitation, because this is my first time in a UNITAR training, also with the Universitat Oberta de Catalunya. So very pleased to be here. So as you said, I will talk about some case studies, some applications of an actual application of AI into the diplomacy. So I will share my screen. If you cannot see the screen, just let me know it. So as we have explained before, we can see that AI has a large number of implications, but actually, in order to be quite brief in this session, I wanted to summarize the impact of AI on diplomacy through three main approaches. The first one is understanding AI as a diplomatic topic. The second one is understanding AI as a diplomatic tool, as such, as a diplomatic instrument. And the third one is AI as a shaping factor of diplomacy. What we see in the first case, so AI as a diplomatic topic, is that AI is becoming, as we have said, a broader policy topic in the international arena and agenda, which has a strong impact either on the economy, businesses, private sector, but also in security and peace, and also human rights, which is a topic that we could delve into if you all want later on. The second area is AI as a diplomatic tool. What does this mean? That the diplomatic corps and the day-to-day tasks of diplomats can seize the opportunity of AI. For example, I put here various examples. The first one is to make some messages from embassies, consulates, and so on social media, make them viral. And I say here that it can be positive, or it can have some some unexpected effects, because on the positive side, sometimes the embassies can leverage AI to make some messages viral. But the other side of the coin is that sometimes you, as an embassy, can receive a strong viral message against you. So then you need AI to analyze how this deepfake, how this fake news, how this disinformation message on social media has been spread through AI. This is very important. A second example is how you can identify target audiences, or which types of audience are following your social media, for example. Third, you can also, through AI, map and predict potential trends. For example, if you are working in a specific embassy or a specific post, you can take data that is available for the embassy, and then you can use it to make descriptive analytics. So try to have ideas or mapping or about some resources, or you can have a predictive analytics, which means that you can predict some patterns, some trends. The fourth example is how you can optimize your own work. Imagine that there are some activities that are quite routine-based, for example, delivering passports and so on. So that AI can be used to manage these services that can be much more based on the routine. And then, apart from this very diplomatic tool as AI is, I also wanted to reflect on some applications that are being used with AI. For example, when it comes down to the World Trade Organization, this is a place where states, where countries discuss trade negotiations and rules of origin, etc. So, for example, IBM, alongside much other companies, have developed. So, in this case, IBM has developed the Cognitive Trade Advisor, which is an AI-powered tool that allows countries and also private sector companies to be much more quicker in how to understand and how to get a position, for example, on a trade negotiation, because you have lots of information and then you have to handle everything. And the third point is AI as a shaping factor of diplomacy. And in this case, I think a clear example is the current situation, geopolitically speaking, between China, the United States, the European Union, but also countries from, for example, the African continent, from the Latin American Caribbean region, etc. And the point here is that AI could even be a groundbreaking drive for how we understand the international order. And here I wanted to include some examples, because when it comes down to AI, we cannot talk about AI. That's all. We need to understand the impact of AI on diplomacy through several examples, and also by understanding how AI can be combined with other technologies. For example, in terms of in diplomacy, how you can address international crisis management. Imagine that a specific nuclear reactor receives a message that the AI-powered system that protects the nuclear reactor is getting threatened by an adversary. Sometimes this type of messages has been triggered through cyber attacks. So you have here a sort of nexus, a sort of combination between cybersecurity and AI. In this case, cyber offense activities plus AI. Then you also have the combination between AI and quantum technologies to disrupt in the future intelligence communications. And also you have some examples such as AI and satellites, which is my first case, specifically humanitarian technologies. Sometimes we tend to think that AI is only a tool for those applications that we usually hear in the media. But if you go into detail on AI, you will see that there are lots of applications for AI, also in the humanitarian settings. In this case, for those of you that have worked on humanitarian or for or you haven't, there are like three main stages in the humanitarian cycle. The first one is how to prepare vis-a-vis that humanitarian challenge, then the response side, and then the recovery, reconstruction, risk reduction side. In this case, there are lots of technologies that you can make use of, for example, 5G or blockchain technologies to make refugees in a refugee camp to have their own entrepreneurship, for example, but also you can use AI. And in this case, I wanted to reflect in these specific examples. For example, the Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs at the United Nations uses what is called crisis mapping, which means that through a satellite, you make use of AI to detect quickly main isolated areas or main hot points that could be harmed or damaged, for example, in a crisis scenario. But also there are some academic and private initiatives, such as the Satellite Sentinel project, which is a project by the Harvard Humanitarian Initiative. And in this case, you can see how the AI-powered tool in a satellite can map what's going on in a specific place. And this is highly important for those areas which are either harmed by a conflict or those areas that can be quite isolated. You have here, in case you are interested in, because we don't have the time to go into detail, you have this report, which is getting updated, but I wanted to reflect this 2013 graph, because I think it's very reflective on how many differences there are between countries depending on their ICT capacity. So sometimes even if we have really good AI systems to support humanitarian activities, still it depends on the ICT capacity, and it will have a strong impact on even the Human Development Index. Here you have a graph that I can share with you on how humanitarian technologies are being used, but also which is the operational benefit of using them, because sometimes there is no need to use AI for specific humanitarian activities. In other cases, it can be helpful. In other cases, it could be or not. It depends on the specific topic we are talking about. And then I wanted to talk briefly about the second case that I wanted to reflect on, which is how AI serves tackle disinformation and misinformation. You can think that this is a really difficult map, but actually, if we read it smoothly, we will realize that it's not, because AI can be used, first of all, to translate narratives into specific messages. Imagine that you have a strong book or a strong text that you want to spread out through social media. So AI can help you to select those specific messages that each target audience that you want to reach out to needs or is interested in. Then there are other stages in the disinformation and misinformation process where AI can be used. For example, if you want to amplify some messages, you can use AI, but also you can use AI to send in trolls, or you can use AI to hack algorithms to go viral. And on the other hand, there are civil society organizations and other types of entities that are using AI not to spread disinformation, but on the contrary, to defend against disinformation. And sometimes you need to understand what the misinformation producer is doing to have your own defensive strategies. And then we can discuss about this in the Q&A if you want, but in terms of the third approach to AI in diplomacy, so AI as a shaping factor of diplomacy, I wanted to show you a clear example on how AI is driving the EU to have its own digital diplomacy framework.
We have less than a minute.
Yeah, thanks. Now. So what we see in this digital diplomacy framework is that the EU has decided to not just make ad hoc initiatives with third countries or third actors, but also to specifically have top-level dialogues at the political, working, and policy level to make AI and other technologies an actual new layer of foreign policy by the EU. So we have here AI, but also other technologies. And you can see here that they are working with a large number of partners. So with this, I just wanted to show you two specific cases and how AI is changing the diplomatic scenario. Thanks.
Thank you, Raquel. So let's move on to the final panelist. So Professor Sean, please, the floor is yours.
Okay, thank you very much, Luke, and thank you for the invitation to this webinar. I'm afraid I don't have any slides to show anybody, but that may make me talk quicker. But on the other hand, I do have the experience of actually having been a diplomat. So looking at the issue of AI and diplomacy, perhaps more from the inside. I think one of the things that we need to do is to be very accurate about what we mean by AI. AI is not just one technology. AI is a series of different technologies. And if we don't understand what technologies we're talking about, if we just talk about AI in general, we don't necessarily understand what the challenges or the problems are that AI is posing. So first of all, I would like to distinguish between automated systems and autonomous systems. Automated systems are pretty boring. They've been around for a while. There's nothing terribly new or exciting about them. You either design the algorithms, which are human designed, you either design them well or you design them badly. And you can talk to the guy who designed the algorithm or the girl who designed the algorithm and try and find out why they were doing it, what they were thinking about when they did it. If you're a diplomat, you might not understand the answer they give you, but you can try. What we've got with autonomous systems, often referred to as deep learning or machine learning, is that we don't actually design the algorithm as humans. We create a neural network, we feed data to the neural network, training data, and the network itself designs its own algorithm and trains on its own algorithm. So we don't really know what it's doing. So give an example from the AlphaGo program that played Chinese chess or Go against the world Go champion and won convincingly, but making moves that nobody quite understood. Nobody quite understood why it was making those moves. We have the Alpha Pro program, which is now plays chess, can beat any human chess player quite comfortably, and again is making moves that human chess players don't understand, and then have to go and research and try and find out why it's making them. Now, this ought to give us pause for the assertion that we can use AI programs, deep learning programs, or machine learning programs to help us analyze data in foreign policy making. And various reasons why this is a problem. First of all, we have to make sure that the training data we're using is good data, that we understand it, we understand where it's coming from, we understand its implications, we understand any biases that might be built into it. And that is very difficult to do. Secondly, we have a problem in distinguishing between correlation and causation. Deep learning programs, machine learning programs are not very good at this. Where they're very strong is where there's a clear outcome. They identify a face, for example, or they win a game. Where there's a clear success rate, they can measure their success in a quite straightforward way. That's not true of foreign policy analysis. The final issue in the foreign policy analysis is we actually need explanation. We don't just want a prediction. We don't just want to be told what the trend is. We want to understand why this is thought to be the case. We need explanation. If we think about an American Air Force general who announces that he believes that China and the US will be at war in 2025, we ask him why. We may not be very happy when he says it's his gut that tells him. We may not regard his gut as a very reliable geopolitical analyst, but at least we've got some kind of indication of what's leading him to make that statement. And at the very least, that it's not a rational analysis, it's a gut reaction. With a machine learning, deep learning, we get none of that. As of now, there's no explanatory value. Finally, there is a question as why deep learning programs or machine learning programs should be any better at predicting outcomes or forecasting outcomes in complex adaptive systems. It raises almost a philosophical question whether such systems, and the international environment is such a system, are actually inherently unpredictable. The problems and challenges also apply to issues like disinformation, where the kind of programs that are being used to create deep fake videos and images now, like the GANs programs, by their very nature, tend to be difficult to identify, difficult to analyze. So we need to understand how disinformation programs may not be helped by using AI. Likewise, in cybersecurity, there's no particular reason why AI is going to make cyber defense any better than cyber offense. Indeed, the internet as constructed actually has a bias for cyber offense against cyber defense. I think one of the big issues, one of the big challenges for dealing with artificial intelligence at the international level is going to be negotiating and agreeing what the position of humans are in AI systems. Where are we going to have the human decision maker inserted in the system to make sure that we retain control over these autonomous systems, that they're not moving so fast ahead of us that decisions are taken before we understand what the decisions are. Now, there's big debate about whether the human decision maker should be in the loop, on the loop, or out of the loop. In other words, should the human decision maker actually be making decisions? We should be in the loop. Should it be on the loop, which means having a veto? And should it be, or can they be out of the loop altogether? You just set a system going and let it run. Those issues are issues that we need to be debating at an international level so that we have some common ideas and common understandings of the problems. And if perhaps there's one more thing I mentioned that we've not spoken about, it's the environmental damage that AI systems do. AI systems, we tend to think of these things up in the cloud, they're in the air, but they actually have a very physical embodiment. And one of these is environmental damage. AI systems require enormous quantities of energy for their computing power. AI systems require large numbers of rare earth metals for the construction of the hardware on which they're depending. These have enormous environmental implications. To just give one idea, cryptocurrencies, mining of cryptocurrencies is now consuming more energy than all gold mining in the world. We should be thinking about these environmental challenges, which add to the extent to which we get a social divide, a digital divide between the rich and the poor, those who can afford not only to develop these technologies, but also to pay for the energy that they're going to consume. And we have the real danger that we move into a world in which an elite have access to AI or the benefits of AI, and the poorer countries are those left processing the rare earth metals with all the environmental pollution. They get all the downsides, but they don't get the upsides. And I'll leave it there.